My name is Sofia. Good morning, everyone. I'm a lawyer at a Portuguese law firm called SRS. I work at the TMT department, so Telecommunications, Media, and Technology department, and I mostly work with privacy and data protection issues. And today I'm going to talk to you about GDPR, so General Data Protection Regulation, a topic that has been looming over our minds due to the constraints it actually poses to the companies and to the problems that it may eventually give rise to in your company's lives. So, I'm sorry, English is not my native tongue, but I will try my best. Okay, so I'm not sure if you are acquainted with GDPR, if you know what we are talking about. So General Data Protection Regulation was a regulation approved by the European Union in 2016. It had a 2-year period for implementation, and its application will start fully on 25th of May 2018, so next week. GDPR is applicable to any individual, so personal data you actually process in terms of employees means that has to be GDPR compliant. What does that mean? Means that, for example, when you recruit someone, when you take care of payroll, when you do performance evaluation, when you take care of disciplinary proceedings, or eventually when you terminate a contract, we're always talking about personal data of employees, and you need to be GDPR compliant. So you have to include the provisions of this regulation in the overall process you take when you are taking care of your employees in your company. Basically, the first thing you have to think about is the lawful basis for processing. That means that you need to be aware of what is the legal basis for you to take care of that data. You have several possibilities to process data, and one of them shall be the execution of a contract. And that is normally the lawful basis for employees. That because consent normally cannot be used as a lawful basis because consent has to be freely given, and GDPR states that consent regarding employees rarely is freely given. So normally, you cannot use that as a lawful basis for processing, unless eventually the contract does not address that, or we are talking about sensitive data. And in that cases, you cannot use the contract as a lawful basis. I'll give you an example. When you control access, using biometric data, we are talking about sensitive data, and in such case, you cannot use contract. You have to rely on consent, or you have to rely on a legal obligation, for example. So the first thing I would like you to bear in mind is that consent normally is not the lawful basis for processing regarding employees, so you have to look for a contract or for a legal obligation in order to justify the processing you do. So when a company is collecting personal data, has to address several questions. So why am I collecting this data? What is the lawful basis for processing, as we discussed in the previous slide? How long shall I store such data? Is it stored in the appropriate way using the security measures I should use in order to keep it secure? For how long shall I keep this data? And the regulation is quite strict in terms of retention period. So you should only keep the data as long as you need it, regarding the purpose why you have collected in the first place. You have to also to be able to demonstrate that the data you are processing, the data that you collected, is needed for that purpose. You cannot collect more data than the one you need in order to process for a specific purpose. So when you recruit someone, you can only ask for the data you need in terms of recruitment. You cannot ask further data than that. And you have to be able to demonstrate that. Also, you will have to be able to demonstrate that after you stop needing the data for that specific purpose, either you have another purpose and you have a lawful basis to process the data, or you have to get rid of it. You have to erase it. And that is one of the biggest difficulties in the life of a company that normally is not used to be aware of that, normally doesn't have to address that, and from now on, you have to be able to demonstrate that you only keep the data for the period you need. Regarding intranet, the reason why we have scheduled this presentation today, intranet can actually be quite helpful for you. First, intranet centralizes the processing of data. Communications between employees done only by intranet are actually able to be easily traceable rather than using, for example, other means of communication. You can also display messages and policies on intranet, and that also makes it easier for you to prove that you are conveying the necessary messages for your employees. For example, you need a privacy statement regarding the processing of data with your employees. If you have it on intranet, online, always, you are able to demonstrate that your privacy statement is actually being communicated with your employees. Also, intranet makes it easier for you to block access to data that is not needed for certain employees. One of the things that GDPR states is that you have to be able to keep the confidentiality of your data. So you don't need to make your data available for everyone. You just need to make it available for people that should actually have access to it. With intranet, you can actually make folders or other types of technical solutions that keep information separate and only available for people who need to take care of it. Finally, intranet also makes it easier for you to document the processing that you're making. So if you have everything online and you have loggings, it's actually easier for you to show the data you have, how you process it, how you collect it, and how you erase it when you need it. Bear in mind that even when an employee leaves a company, you still have personal data regarding that employee. So either you justify that you keep that data, for example, because you have a dispute and you have to settle that dispute, or because you have legal obligations you have to comply with. For example, in Portugal, you have to have the data regarding tax obligations for 10 years. So even if an employee leaves earlier, you need to keep certain data regarding that employee for 10 years in order to comply with your tax obligations. And other reasons, but you have to be able to justify why you keep such data. If you cannot justify, you have to erase it. Also, bear in mind that in many cases, we hire other companies to do some processing in our names. For example, when we ask for a company to do the payroll, or when we ask to a law firm to take care of disciplinary proceedings, or other types of situations, recruitment agencies, for example, that do the recruitment for us, and we are actually transferring data for such companies. In such cases, you need data processing agreements, meaning that you need a contract with that companies where you are able to provide instructions regarding the processing, and you are also able to demonstrate that you apply the same security measures that you apply inside your own company. So those data processing agreements are mandatory in such situations. What are the actions that should be taken regarding human resources? So first of all, you should have a data register. That is not mandatory in all situations, but at least it is advisable. A register is basically a spreadsheet where you include the information regarding the processing you do inside your companies. For example, who is the data controller? That is your company. If you have any data processors, so third parties to whom you transfer the information, who are the data subjects? The employees in this case. What is the data that is processed? For how long do you keep it? What are the security measures taken? So on, so on. that data register is something that I would advise strongly any company to have, okay? So I mostly advise you to have it inside your own companies. Second, you have to deal with the rights of your data subjects. So you need a privacy statement. That privacy statement could actually be on intranet and be displayed and available always to your employees. The privacy statement basically explains what do you do with the personal data. And, for example, states the rights of the data subjects. The data subjects have the right to access, to update, to erase, to restrict, to oppose, and also to portability, so to take their data to other companies. You have to be able to explain to your employees what are those rights, and you also have to provide them tools to make requests to exercise such rights. Intranet can also be a tool in order to exercise such rights. Implementation of data retention policies. So, as I told before, you have to be able to justify for how long you keep your data. So, what is the data you have? What is the minimum period of retention, the maximum period of retention? And after the maximum period expires, you have to be able to demonstrate that you erase such data. Otherwise, you will not be GDPR compliant. That also applies to paper records, not only online digital ones. Also, ensure the compliance of your business partners. So, the third parties I talked about that also process data in your name, you must have data processing agreements where you demonstrate that they are subject to the same security measures that are applicable to your company. Such data processing agreements are mandatory. Finally, you have to be able to demonstrate that you apply to all the data processing cycle since the moment you collect until the moment you erase, security measures, privacy settings that are able to keep data confidential and also to restrict access to the people who should have access to it and basically to stop any type of unauthorized access. If you are subject to a supervision action by your supervising entities in your country, data protection supervising entities, you have to be able to demonstrate that you apply such security measures. I'll basically not take you more of your time. I'll be available for your questions. I cannot contact you, but you can contact me because I don't have your consent. But basically use my email if you want, okay? And I'll be available. So thank you very much for this opportunity.